I'm lake fishing with Vibe lures in the middle of winter. Hi, my name's Roger Osborne. You know, wintertime is often very challenging. The lakes are so quiet, however, Vibes are awesome. And in this video, I'll be teaching you everything about Vibe lures. I'll show you my rod, my reel, the exact vibes that I'm using, and also explain how to retrieve a vibe and the right action to get a fish to really bite onto that lure. Stick around to the end for a free PDF download which will outline some vital keys from today's session. If you're new to my channel, make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Let's start fishing. Now, I've picked a lake which is close to where I live, so it's pretty easy access. It's typical of a lot of lakes up and down the coast, and I'm going to be casting lures from the shore. So you can absolutely have a lot of fun and catch fish whether you have a boat or not. My main criteria was to find places on the shore where I could cast into deep water. So you need to have a look at a lake and see where the shallow sandbars are and where the deep parts are. So that's been my main criteria, is to get my lures out there in the deep water. I'm starting off with a 70mm Vibe. It's actually a Samaki Vibelicious lure, and it is in pearl white colour. It's got a bit of orange around the mouth, and I'm using, this is a 2 to 4 kilo rod. It's one of my flathead rods, and it's spooled with 10-pound braid, and I have 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. So it's really good if you're already a flathead fisherman. You don't have to buy different tackle. You can just use one of your flathead rods. And I'm planning, I want to get this vibe out as far as I can from the shore. One of the good things about Vibes is that they cast really well. They are heavier than soft plastics. Typically, if I was using plastics, I would have a 1/8 jig head with my plastic, but this little Vibe weighs 10 grams. A 1/8 jig head weighs 3 grams. So this is like triple the weight of a 1/8 jig head. So you get a little bit of extra distance for casting, which is fantastic. So all I'm going to do is just work my way around this area and just do a bit of prospecting and see what's hungry out there. And it's pretty flippin' cold. It's cold weather to be wearing shorts, but I need to walk in the water. So I'm going to head out and give that a go. I don't want to walk out too far and get, but the further I walk out from the shore, the further out into the deep water I'm going to get. So I'm just going to go for a little wander out here, probably till just over my knees. I can see where the water drops off here, probably 10 metres, 8 metres in front of me. It drops off into deep water. There's a weed bank that runs along the edge, and I'm just going to flick out as far as I can beyond that. See, that flew a mile. That really did go a long way. Oh, I got one. Oh. Wow, this is only my second cast, and it got whacked. You know what I think this probably is? It's probably a small snapper. They really hit it hard. And on this light tackle, they pull quite hard. So that's pretty awesome. Only my second cast and I'm hooked up. Oof. I don't know if this is going to be an edible size fish. It's just fighting quite hard because of the light line, but we'll soon find out when I get it a bit closer. Getting closer to the shore now. So I'm going to call it as a snapper. That's what I reckon. But we'll soon find out. One of the things I've noticed with these Vibes is that the little hooks are so sharp. All right, here we go. Yeah, the hooks are, I mean, I love it. They're so sharp. When a fish gets hooked, they generally get hooked pretty well. So here I go, I'm going to bring this guy in. It's a beautiful fish actually. Look, what a stunning fish. What an absolutely awesome fish. Look at that, wow. What a cracker. Now I'm going to just wash the sand off him and I'll hold him up and I'll show you the lure in his mouth. Look at that. There's that little vibe. He has nailed it. Although it's actually hooked him in the side of the face. Actually, look, no, there's two sets. See, look, you've got a set of trebles in his mouth there and one in the side of his face. You know, that's a really nice lake snapper. He's definitely, in New South Wales anyway, a legal fish. So I'm actually going to keep that fish. So that's a great start. Alrighty, he's all good. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the action that you need to impart when you're fishing with a vibe in winter. When the water is colder, fish's metabolism slows right down. Fish are obviously still feeding, but they don't move, or they're not as aggressive as when the water's really warm, like in summertime. So you need to slow everything down. When you cast one of these vibes out, you let it sink to the bottom and you just let it sit there and probably count to 5 or 6. Just let it sit on the bottom. And very often fish will come along and whack it while it's just sitting there. Then you wind up your slack line and you just do just a steady rod lift. Not a sharp lift, but you just lift your rod up. And when you lift your rod up, you can actually feel the vibe. It's really quite an amazing rattle and a vibration. As you lift and pull it, it's brrrr, like that. You really feel the action of that lure. So you just gently lift it up. Really, you can gauge the action, how hard and how quickly you need to pull it up. Just get that lure working, wind up the slack and let it sink to the bottom again and let it sit there. When I just caught that snapper, that's exactly what happened. I had lifted it, I felt the lure vibrating and moving, I wound up the slack, I let it go to the bottom, it sat on the bottom and I'm probably counting 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 seconds and then all of a sudden whack, and that snapper grabbed it. It's really very simple. Cast it out, wind up the slack, let it sink to the bottom, wait, gentle lift, feeling the lure working, wind up the slack and repeat back to the shore. Just making sure that you just keep everything kind of slow because the fish don't move as quickly, but they're still obviously pretty keen. So let's see what we're going to catch now. I'm going to go back to where I just had that last cast. Actually, no, I'll cast here and then I'll show you. I'll talk about it while I do it. So I'll flick out. It's amazing how far these little things go. Now I've hit the water. I'm winding up the slack and I'm just holding the rod. The line is quite taut and I'm watching the line until it drops, till I know that the lure's hit the bottom, which it just did. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a second. And now I'm going to lift my rod tip. I can feel it vibrating and now I'm going to wind the slack line back down till it's taut again, and I'll let it go down and hit the bottom. And now I'm going to wait for a second. I'll wind up that bit of slack, lift it up again, wind up the slack, keep it taut, let it sink back down to the bottom. Now I can tell where I've just cast my line, it's not very deep out there. I reckon in this particular spot right here where I am, it's maybe maximum 3 meters deep. It's not that deep. But there are pockets of deeper water around here, so I want to try and get into some of those deeper pockets. So I'm just going to prospect my way around this corner. Every time I lift my rod tip, I can feel that vibe. It feels fantastic. It's awesome. You can really feel it working. Now I'm almost back at the shore, so I'm probably going to walk to my left. The wind is actually coming into my face a little bit, so I might go over to the other side and have the wind behind me. It'll help me to cast out further. So always check your lure to make sure that there's no no rubbish on it. You can see there's a little bit of weed on the bottom of this lure on the top hook. So I need to just get that little bit of weed off there before I chuck it back out again. So I'm going to wander over this way a little bit. Just let that wind aid me a bit because it's coming across this way. And I can put a few casts in here, just really looking to see where some fish might be hanging out. So I'm probably getting a third of the way across this channel, which is great. I'm glad I'm getting some good distance. Haven't hit the bottom yet, just hit the bottom then. Just waiting. I'll lift it up, let it sink back down again, and then wait and repeat. On this occasion I'm fishing late in the afternoon, really about an hour before dark. It's very overcast, which is a great time to fish, although I reckon this type of fishing would be good throughout the day. At the moment it's an incoming tide. It's a high tide at about 6:30 p.m, so about an hour after dark. When I first got down here it was beautiful and glassy and calm, but that wind has really picked up from the northwest. I've got a fish actually. That wind has really picked up from the northwest. So I decided to get the wind, I decided to get the wind at my back rather than cast out there. And I think I've got a flathead actually. That's what it feels like. It's amazing when you let that lure hit the bottom and pause and wait. That's what happened with this particular fish. I was talking. And it had hit the bottom. It's got a little bit of weight in it. It doesn't feel that small, unless I've hooked it sideways. Yeah, look, he's pulling quite hard. Just got to bring him in gently. You can see my rod's got a bit of a bend in it. Wow, how awesome is this? Wow. I'm just gently lifting this guy in. It feels like he's got a fair bit of weight. Anyway, we'll find out in a second, hopefully. Wow. Come on, Mr. Fish. When I first hooked him, he didn't feel that big. Oh. But it's they're a bit of a surprise package, these things. In winter they can be a little bit sleepy, but then when they wake up, they really wake up. All right, now this is a nice flathead. Just being careful because I've only got light line. Bring him back in over here and wash him up. Just bring him up onto the sand. Look at that. Woo! That's a lovely fish. Look at that. You can see that vibe right on his mouth. I'm just going to lift him up gently. You can see he's a good fish. Beautiful eating fish. It shows that the vibe, I've caught dinner, so it shows that the vibe works. I knew at first, same with the flathead I caught last night, he didn't fight much at first, but then I realised, oh, it's not a baby, it's a bit bigger than I thought. You know, it's interesting because when this first bit, it didn't have much weight in it at all. But once I started to wind it in, I could tell it was bigger than I thought, which was a very nice feeling. So I'm gonna look. We've got some friends here. They want dinner, but they're not getting it. Sorry, guys. Have a little look. Come on. Nah, I shouldn't tease them. I was fishing down on this same lake last night, and I caught a really beautiful flathead. It was 62 centimetres on a vibe, and I had a violent fight with a pelican. That thing must have been desperate. It was so hungry, it came right up to me, it had its beak open, and I had to fight to get the fish off the pelican because it tried to grab it while I was playing the fish, and then the fish flew between my legs, and it was all on. And the pelican was that close, I thought it was going to bite me. And it really wanted the fish, but in the end I won and I got the fish. But man, I tell you what, he's brought back his mates with him tonight. There was only one last night, but now there's 4. I've only used this one vibe so far. I've caught a couple of nice fish on it. I brought a second rod, and I've got this is a 70 millimeter vibe, but I've got a 100 mil one on a slightly heavier line, and I'll be able to cast that further. So I want to have a couple of casts before it gets dark with that heavy one. Now I'm going to get out here, and hopefully these guys, it'll be interesting to see if I hook a fish, how they behave. Okay guys, there's 5 now. All right, that wind has momentarily dropped off. I'm loving the distance with these vibes. It's really cool, but you know, that flathead grabbed it about halfway in. So I had actually I'd peppered the area. I thought I had a bite then. Just watching my line. But I had pulled my line maybe halfway into the shore before that flathead hit. I can see some small fish skipping across the surface out the back. Something is chasing them. I'd like to hook that something. There is a bit of life in the water. I think I'll swap over to the larger vibe on my other rod. I've caught 2 nice fish on this one, but this other one is bigger. It's actually double the weight. It's 100 millimeters, and it's 20 grams. So we're just going to give that guy a go. We'll see how much further. This wind is funny because it kind of ebbs and flows. One minute it's blowing really hard, the next minute it stops. I much prefer it when it's not blowing. So see how far I can get out with this guy. It should fly, really. It's quite a heavy weight for a little light rod like this. I actually got a similar distance to the other one, believe it or not. I didn't want to put too much. It'll probably sink to the bottom pretty quickly. I'm doing a higher lift with this particular lure because it's heavy. I want to get it up off the bottom. Oh, I got one. Oh. I just hooked this on the larger vibe. Whatever I hooked just leapt out of the water. It may be a tailor or something like that because it jumped out of the water. Although I was near the bottom. I was on the bottom, so I don't know what it was that jumped out of the water. There it goes again. Got a little bit of fight in it. Just walking backwards to bring it near the shore. Yep, there it is. Here it comes. Okay. Yep, it's a reasonable sized tailor actually that has taken this other vibe. Here we go. Look at that. There you go. You can see. Hey, hang on. Stop jumping around. You can see the vibe there next to his face. Look at that. So that's a nice sized tailor. I'll just wash him. get a better look at it. I'll just hold it so you can see. These are great when you eat them fresh. And a gentleman emailed me the other day who's a tailor enthusiast, and he said a fantastic way, because normally you would not freeze tailor, but he said if you actually vacuum seal them, if you fillet them and pat the fillets dry and then vacuum seal them, you can have them in the freezer for 3 or 4 months, thaw them out, provided you remove all of the air out, that's the killer, and they come out really well. So that was really good to find that out. So I'm gonna keep this guy because we've been enjoying our fish lately. I fish because I just love being out in God's creation, and I love eating fish. Man, he's well hooked. There's no way he was going to get off. All 3 hooks are in his mouth. So I've been using these vibes. I've only been fishing for maybe 40 minutes. I've certainly caught dinner. I caught 3 different species of fish, and it's the middle of winter. So that's pretty awesome, pretty amazing. Certainly very enjoyable and fruitful. I've brain spiked that tailor, but the treble is so embedded in his mouth, I don't want to waste time. I've only got time for a couple more casts before it's fully dark, because it's going to quickly get a couple more casts in. Thankfully I've got 2 rods. I can just pick this one up and use this. So I better get out there before I lose all the light. I can see some action out on the water. There must be a few tailor out there. So during this short little session, I've been prospecting and just casting along the shore, and I've been using the wind to my advantage. When the wind comes up, I get into a position where I can have the wind at my back. It helps me to cast further, get further away from the shore into the deeper water, enables me to cover more ground. When the wind drops, then I go back around and cast into where it was going to be, where I couldn't cast before. But I'm not just casting in the same spot all the time. I'm prospecting and moving around. The air temperature apparently is 11 degrees at the moment, but that doesn't include the wind chill factor. And my fingers are feeling a bit like ice blocks. Not to mention my legs. But the adrenaline and the enthusiasm of fishing outweighs all of it. If you'd like a free PDF download of some vital keys from today's session, hit the link in the corner or in the description below. This has been a great little session. I've fished for about an hour. I've caught 3 different species, and I've even caught a lovely flathead, which normally you don't target so much right in the middle of winter, but got a beautiful flathead. So very happy with this session, and certainly shows that you can have a lot of fun even in the cold weather, and that vibes really are excellent lures. I love the fact that you don't just have the visual, you've got that vibration and the rattle of the vibe, which it's another way that the fish can detect that there's some food there. I think they're really, really good. I am going to continue to fish with vibes throughout winter, and then as the weather warms up, I want to keep doing it because it's a lot of fun, really enjoyable and very effective. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time.